First contact, first insult. The wormhole gate shimmered like liquid starlight, its surface rippling as the diplomatic shuttle Resolute emerged into the Imperial system. Captain Adrian Vega stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, and studied the alien capital station looming ahead. Araxis Prime, jewel of the Galactic Empire. It looked like a crown wrapped around a neutron star, gleaming with centuries of arrogance. The official welcome from the Imperial Chancellor had been less than welcoming. Representative of Earth. The transmission had begun. We are pleased your people have advanced enough to leave your mud and fire and join civilized discourse. Adrian's lips had curved into a polite, diplomatic smile. Chancellor, it's an honor to meet a civilization that's managed to keep running for 10,000 years. That's impressive stamina. He'd left the tone just ambiguous enough to draw a few side eyes from the alien aides on the channel. Now, as he entered the council chamber, he could feel the deliberate intimidation. The floor was cut crystal, designed to reflect light into the eyes of anyone under 6 feet tall, which included most humans. Alien nobles loomed on pedestals, their robes dripping with metallic threads that shimmered like liquid mercury. At the far end, the Imperial Chancellor, tall, insectoid, crowned with fractal horns, sat on a throne carved from a single asteroid fragment. Earth, the Chancellor declared, voice reverberating through the chamber. You arrive at the threshold of civilization. We offer you a chance to prove you are not what your history suggests. There was a ripple of amusement through the gathered council members. Adrian took his place at the center dais, his AI assistant Lyra humming quietly in his earpiece. Scanning data feeds. Watch for bait, she warned. I welcome the opportunity, Adrian said aloud, voice steady. Though I was told this was a summit, not a school exam. The Chancellor's mandibles flexed in what might have been a smirk. It is tradition, a test of knowledge, culture, and reason. Surely your people value such things. Deeply, Adrian replied, though we usually let the host go first. The test began with star charts. The Imperials presented a map, smugly noting that it had been updated last century. Adrian pointed out 3 gravitational shifts and 1 newly collapsed binary star. The chamber went quiet. Next came engineering equations in alien script. Lyra translated in microseconds, and Adrian worked through them in neat strokes. Then circled 2 where the Imperials' own answers were wrong. Finally, a philosophical riddle about the measure of a life. The Chancellor expected Adrian to flounder. Instead, he quoted a Terran philosopher and twisted the logic back to highlight a contradiction in the Empire's own legal code. By the end, murmurs had shifted from amusement to disbelief. Adrian stepped back, hands loose at his sides, wearing the faint smile of a man who'd just dismantled 1,000 years of smug superiority without raising his voice. If this, he said mildly, is the height of Imperial intellect, I'm starting to see why the galaxy needed fresh blood. Outsmarting the Masters. The Chancellor's composure cracked for only a second after Adrian's parting jab in the knowledge test, but it was enough. The insectoid noble's mandibles clicked together in a tight, irritated snap before he rose from the throne. Perhaps, the Chancellor said, voice now carrying a harder edge. A real challenge will reveal the truth of your people's capabilities. You will enter the trial of stars, a test that has humbled every upstart species before you. Adrian didn't miss the sneer. Sounds fun. Do I get medal at the end? Or just the satisfaction of ruining someone's day? Lyra's voice murmured in his ear. Warning, historical data indicates the trials are rigged. No outsider has ever passed. The first trial was called the Diplomacy Duel. In an ornate chamber lined with banners, Adrian faced 2 alien factions locked in a bitter dispute over mining rights. The Empire expected him to take sides, falling into a trap that would offend half the council. Instead, Adrian listened, asked questions, then smiled as if piecing together a puzzle. So both your governments have been receiving weapons shipments from, oh, would you look at that, Imperial depots. The chamber erupted. The Imperial officials overseeing the match scrambled to call around a draw, but the whispers in the gallery told the real story. Earth's representative had just exposed the setup. Next came the navigation maze, a starship course that twisted between shifting gravity wells. Imperial pilots had memorized safe routes for centuries. Adrian, strapped into the control seat of a borrowed Corvette, ignored the official maps entirely. Lyra, calculate a dynamic path using live gravimetric readings. Already on it, the Corvette danced between wells with surgical precision, cutting the record time in half. At the finish, Adrian transmitted his full path to the public channel, instantly stripping the maze of its mystery. Spectators erupted in cheers, while Imperial officers clenched their jaws. The final stage was the combat simulation, a VR fleet battle pitting Adrian against 3 of the Empire's best tacticians. They swarmed him with massive formations, expecting a straightforward slugfest. Instead, Adrian played them like a string quartet. He broadcast false distress calls, baiting one fleet into an ambush, while planting decoy ships that drew the others into colliding asteroid fields. His losses were minimal. Their simulated fleets lay scattered. When the simulation ended, the Chancellor's mandibles twitched in a way that suggested barely contained fury. A young noble leaned to his companion, voice just low enough for Adrian to overhear. "They make fools of us without even trying." Adrian simply adjusted his collar and walked off the stage. "Well," he said, "that was entertaining. What's next? A staring contest? The Empire strikes back poorly. The trials have been meant to humble him. Instead, they turned the Galactic Empire into a punchline." The Chancellor, however, wasn't done. That evening, Adrian received a personal invitation to a banquet aboard the Araxis Prime's Imperial Hall of Concord, a glittering cathedral of crystal spires and gold-veined walls. The note promised an opportunity to discuss trade opportunities beneficial to Earth. Lyra's voice in his ear was dry. Probability of sincerity, less than 2%. The reception began with alien delicacies laid out on long obsidian tables. Glasses of deep violet wine shimmered in the low light, and the air was thick with the scent of exotic spices. Adrian took a polite sip, then glanced at Lyra's HUD overlay. "Confirmed," she said. "The wine contains a class, 4 hallucinogen. Fast-acting. Subtle." Adrian placed the glass down with a faint smile. "Let's have some fun, then." When the Chancellor arrived, flanked by nobles, his mandibles clicked in mock hospitality. "I trust the vintage suits you, Captain Vega. It is a rare treat." "Oh, it's quite something," Adrian said, deliberately letting his words slur. He swayed slightly, as if already affected. The nobles exchanged knowing glances. They began talking freely, believing him impaired. Arrogance loosened tongues. Boasts about how Earth's entry into the Council was a mere formality before the Empire would strip mine its resources, manipulate its politics, and install advisors to keep humanity obedient. Adrian nodded along, dazed, even as Lyra quietly recorded every word. At one point, he asked for a pen, claiming he needed to sign something before he forgot. The Chancellor, amused, indulged him, producing a ceremonial blood signature tablet. "Here's to a partnership," Adrian mumbled as he pressed his thumb to the device. The nobles chuckled at the thought of a drugged human agreeing to whatever terms they'd inserted. The next morning, in the council chamber, Adrian submitted the signed document for public record. When the Chancellor moved to dismiss it, Adrian read the agreement aloud, revealing it granted Earth-exclusive trade rights to Crithium, a rare mineral used in faster-than-light drives. By Imperial law, blood-sealed accords could not be rescinded. The Chancellor froze, mandibles half open. "You tricked me," he hissed. Adrian smiled. "Oh no, you offered. I just accepted." News spread like wildfire across the galactic networks. The primitive humans had just secured an economic chokehold on one of the Empire's most lucrative exports. Rival civilizations erupted in laughter. Traders began reaching out to Earth directly. In a live broadcast meant to clarify the situation, the Chancellor lost his composure entirely, ranting about upstart vermin and the decay of tradition. Unfortunately for him, his insults targeted several non-imperial species, many of whom had been neutral until that moment. By the end of the day, Earth's popularity had soared, and the Empire's prestige had plummeted. Adrian left the chamber to the sound of hushed voices and suppressed grins. "I came here to shake hands," he said quietly to Lyra. "Not cages." But some cages were already rattling. The last laugh. The fallout from the banquet scandal still smoldered when the Galactic Council convened for the official vote on Earth's admission. The chamber buzzed with speculation. Would the Empire swallow its pride or crush humanity's bit out of spite? The Chancellor took the floor first. His tone was icy, each word polished like a blade. "Earth is resourceful, yes, but also unrefined, unpredictable, and dangerous. I urge this council to reject their petition." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species eyed him with open distrust after his recent broadcast. Adrian rose slowly, adjusting his jacket. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he let the silence sharpen every word. "My people were invited here to prove ourselves. In doing so, we've exposed flaws in traditions meant to intimidate, not unite. We've navigated your trials, engaged in your diplomacy, and even played your games fairer than you played ours. If that's dangerous, then maybe the galaxy needs a little danger." He paced the center dais, meeting the gaze of each delegation. "We don't kneel to arrogance. We don't bow to history. We build our own. And if admitted, we won't just add another vote to this council. We'll add a voice that refuses to be silenced." The vote began. One by one, holographic sigils lit up in green or red. When the final tally appeared, Earth's admission passed by a slim margin, just enough to override the Empire's veto. A low cheer swept the chamber. Adrian allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Then came the ceremonial induction. By long-standing tradition, the senior representative of the most senior member, today the Galactic Empire, was required to offer a public gesture of respect to the new member. Normally, it was a handclasp or token exchange. But when Adrian stepped forward, the protocol officer's voice rang out. "Representative of the Galactic Empire, you will render the symbolic bow." The Chancellor's mandibles froze. The moment was broadcast to trillions across the galaxy. Slowly, as if each motion burned him, the Chancellor bent forward before Adrian Vega. Cameras flashed. Networks replayed the bow in endless loops. Memes erupted before the ceremony even ended. Humans and aliens alike laughing at the image of the most arrogant ruler in the galaxy forced to lower himself to an upstart. After the session, traders flooded Earth's channels with offers. The Crithium deal alone promised to make humanity a major economic player within a decade. The Empire's rivals, emboldened by its humiliation, began maneuvering for advantage. Later, aboard the Resolute, Lyra's voice cut through the quiet hum of the engines. "Satisfied, Captain?" Adrian leaned back his chair, eyes on the wormhole gate opening ahead. "Satisfied? No, this was just the warm-up." The ship slipped into the gate, vanishing toward the next star. Behind them, the Galactic Empire was still reeling, its dignity in tatters, its dominance questioned, and its people whispering about the day the humans arrived and made them look like fools.